for cement, and the country has enough of it to build half a continent. Because the raw material is so abundant, the economic logic seems simple. Local resources should yield cheap, plentiful building supplies. In almost every other mature market on Earth, cement is a basic, highly competitive commodity. It is heavy, it is difficult to transport, and the profit margins are historically tight. This chart shows average gross profit margins for cement production. The global baseline usually hovers between 10 and 20%. But in Nigeria, dominant firms are posting gross profit margins approaching and in some cases reaching north of 60%. Margins of this magnitude defy the usual gravity of a commodity market. It is nearly impossible to maintain that level of profitability when any rival can simply dig up limestone and undercut the price. These distorted figures suggest something other than operational efficiency. They are the mathematical fingerprint of a market where entry is restricted and pricing tightly controlled. These profit margins have direct, physical consequences. Nigeria currently faces a housing deficit of over 20 million units. Because cement prices are kept high, the cost of a single room remains out of reach for millions of families, trapping them in a cycle of high rent and substandard living conditions. To cope with the cost, builders often dilute their concrete mixes. They add a thin puff of cement powder into large, disproportionate piles of cheap sand to stretch whatever material they can afford. The result is structurally compromised architecture. Buildings erected with weak concrete suffer routine collapses, turning affordable housing into a public safety hazard. When housing costs consume the majority of a family's income and their homes are physically unsafe, the high price of cement acts as a financial weight that drags down the entire urban economy. This market distortion began with a specific government intervention, the 2002 Backward Integration Policy. The strategy was to restrict foreign imports to force companies to build local manufacturing plants. On paper, the industrial policy worked. By 2012, Nigeria moved from a heavy reliance on imports to total self-sufficiency in cement production. This graph shows the failure. Domestic supply sharply crosses and doubles demand. Normally, excess supply drops prices, yet the price line remains flat. Prices stayed high because import restrictions were never lifted, becoming a permanent barrier against competition. With the borders closed to external rivals, the market consolidated. Today, over 95% of Nigeria's cement industry is controlled by just 3 firms. The state successfully created domestic giants, but then froze the market in a state of arrested development. It effectively engineered and legally protected an oligopoly. The dominance of these 3 firms is maintained through several hidden levers of control, starting with access to foreign currency. Nigeria has historically used a dual exchange rate system. The dominant players secure access to official, subsidized foreign exchange. Meanwhile, any new competitor is forced into the parallel market, paying substantial premiums just to import the equipment they need to start production. The second advantage comes from regulatory capture, specifically a program called the Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme. Under this scheme, cement producers can offset their tax obligations by building roads. In practice, these projects often fund infrastructure that directly links the company's own plants and logistics networks, subsidizing their expansion with revenue that would otherwise go to the public treasury. Evidence of this artificial pricing power is visible in the Nigeria Premium. These same firms frequently sell cement to neighboring African countries with lower price tags than they offer to customers inside Nigeria. These 60% margins are the result of state-engineered tax breaks and currency advantages, rather than a breakthrough in business innovation. Nigeria's cement market is a product of deliberate state engineering, a market designed specifically to favor a select few. The government succeeded in building formidable industrial giants, but it failed to enforce the antitrust discipline necessary to regulate their power. Reversing this trend requires import liberalization, a neutral foreign exchange policy, and genuine antitrust enforcement to break the current concentration of power. Every bag of cement sold in Nigeria today carries a structural premium. The price is a direct reflection of economic and political influence. In a rigged market, the consumer wallet and public safety are the primary subsidies for the cost of power.